My name is Roger Muller. This presentation is being given at the 2013 SAS Global Forum in San Francisco, California. The paper is entitled SAS Enterprise Guide, Implementation Hints and Techniques for Ensuring Success with the Traditional Long-Term SAS Programmer. That traditional long-term SAS programmer is usually a programmer who's used to working with file-based systems, creating .SAS files in an editor. They may have started on a mainframe, they may have been started on Unix, they may be into PC Windows SAS. This person often is in a position where they're not open to a whole lot of different ways of doing things if they feel like they're being successful the way how they're doing it now. This person is typically not thrilled by such terms as drag and drop, point and click, guide, visual, etc., thinking that those kind of technologies are for people who don't know how to write code, and they would be writing code if they could do it. There are a lot of advantages to Enterprise Guide. We can do all the traditional work plus a lot of new things if we learn how. This person, however, remember, is usually regarded as being very productive both by themselves and by their peers and their customers internally in their organization. As far as this presentation is concerned, it is oriented towards the traditional file-based programmer. It addresses a number of issues to make that programmer more comfortable in the environment. A lot of the options, workflows, etc. that are being shown are sort of hidden away or not totally immediately obvious to a beginning programmer. We do not pretend that this is a complete tutorial on using EG. The presentation style for the items covered will be one of how-to. We will be emphasizing a workflow that will make the programmer faster, easier, and smarter. All things that contribute to bottom line productivity. With that, let's go on and get to work. I've already opened SAS Enterprise Guide and opened an existing project. One thing I want to immediately point out to you is one of those hints that I think make you much more productive, and that is, as I've shown in the menu at the top, go to View, Workspace Layout, and open side by side to get two windows appearing. You should always be using SAS Enterprise Guide in this fashion. Either if you're on a smaller device, perhaps you want to go to some sort of a stacked arrangement to have two windows open. Much more productive to see what's going on. If you have the opportunity to have two monitors, do it. Each one of these split windows can occupy one full monitor. A very fantastic way to work. I'm going to hit Escape. I'm going to go to my cheat sheet. There are 10 things I want to identify here, and this is by no means an overview of Enterprise Guide and how to do it and what it's all about. Maybe it's just more of a quick refresher. If you want more of a complete overview as to what some of this is about, look at the papers at the end of this section. I have several written papers in PharmaSug, Midwest SAS, etc., that do an excellent job and a very thorough job of overviewing what all of the terminology for the different elements of the screen are and what they're about. First item I want to point out is item number 1 at the top. It's an EGP file that we have open, Enterprise Guide Project. Item number 2, if you look into the project tree window, you'll see some of the elements that are in there. This flowchart icon is a program flow or process flow. Use either term interchangeably. You'll notice I got one called Roger 1. I've got one called Roger 1 Program Flow Analyzed. I've also got SAS programs within that. These are the traditional .SAS files. Other things can show up we won't cover at this time. Then if we go within the process flow itself, if the thing is flowed out, we have branches going across, and we also have nodes or just plain elements on that screen. If we were to do runs, we can run all kinds of things. We can run the whole project. We could run a process flow either from over here out of the tree or up here. We could get into individual file. We could run branches. We can run nodes. We can open the files with the editor. Lots of ways to do a run. Okay, let's take a look over on the right hand side here on the split screen. This thing called program that's open is actually this name right here of a program. That'd probably been called Roger's program, and it'd say Roger's program up here to be more meaningful. Plain old SAS code, things you're always used to seeing, and once it's been run, there's logs and outputs and work.sas data sets or the output data here. In this screen, we've got a process flow. There's its name. It has been run. We've got some output out here. Here's how the thing flowed out, and towards the end of this presentation, we'll see how to take and pick off some of these reporting elements to make one master report. A very important item in the screen here is the task status window. Many people get this turned off. How? I don't necessarily know. Most likely it's sort of intentionally. It doesn't take that much screen real estate. This is the place where you can see exactly what is going on. Step by step, if something's taking a long time, you can see it there. You can stop it. You can pause it, try to figure out what's going on. Very useful diagnostic tool. One of the issues I want to take a little bit of time here to address that is probably not something critical when you first start out and then becomes very confusing. And that is, where are the SAS program files? If I look over here and I see different programs, are they residing within the process flow here, or are they residing someplace else? To kind of show you what's happening, I'm going to start a new program and allow it to be embedded within the project. That is, it's not stored by itself. All I'm going to do is type data 10 x equal 10 semicolon run, and I'm going to print it. Notice that I have a fill it out or complete it kind of thing that's intelligent. When I typed a PR, it probably knew I wanted proc, and I wouldn't have to type that at autocomplete. Also notice that there's some intelligence as to what's showing up there. If I type PR, it's going to go for proc print. Yes, it is. What if I don't know all the details of proc print? I can come over here and there's some context sensitive help as I pass over it, and I could look at this and see what some of the requirements are to put in there for programming code. I'm going to double click that, semicolon run. So context sensitive help and auto completion are two features. Okay, at this time, where in this universe is this thing stored? You will notice that it says program asterisk up here, meaning that we have not done a file save on the individual SAS code. If we were to come and save the Enterprise Guide project, and I'll do that, file, save the project, that will become embedded within the project. Let's look at some programs that I know are embedded. Let's see, this one is named, well, this one we just entered here showed up in this process flow. Let's click on it. Let's do a right mouse, get its properties, and if we look at the general properties here for that program one that we just made, there's its name. SAS gave it by default instead of program because there already was a program out here in the project. The file path is embedded in the project. Now, let's say we did not want to take that embedding as the default, but rather wanted to do a save. We'll do a save as. We will give this a name of, instead of program 1, I'm going to call it program not embedded 1. And I'm going to let that go to this My SAS Files area. We will save it. And there it shows up in the process flow. I haven't run it yet. You'll notice that down here in the process flow, that was updated. And we now have this name over here, a program not embedded. Now there's some ramifications on this when it comes to doing saves and backups. If everything is embedded, when you back up your project, you will be also backing up that SAS code. If it's external, it's going to be up to you to make sure that you go out and back up those external files also. With the volume of materials and different object types that you can get into a SAS Enterprise Guide project, it is important that you follow good backup procedures multiple times in a day if you don't want to recreate a day's work, and also that you have something other than your primary hard drive or something more than one hard drive storing it, either a second hard drive or a network drive or whatever, because drives do crash, and the volume of work you've got exposed here could be many, many days. With that, I think I'll stop on the discussion of embedding versus non-embedding. Now I'm going to address analyzing files of existing code for process flow. In the simple program up here, which is showing up in the editor, you'll notice that when I run it and the process flow is generated, there's only an icon called program, and it put out 2 data sets and 2 different reports. What if I would like a more complete process flow on that? Or what if this was a 500 page, could be, SAS program. Let's say 30 page SAS program. And I would like to have it go into the process flow. I want it to do more than just show up as a program with a bunch of output. So what I'm going to do is do this analyze program. This became available in version 4.3 of Enterprise Guide. We are in 5.1, and obviously we've got it here. We're going to analyze this program for program flow. I'm going to go ahead and begin the analysis. Analysis of source code is taking place. It found several steps, data steps. It found some proc prints. We know that. This is going to be called a simple demo process flow. Let's go ahead and create it. In the process of creating that, it is going to show up in my project tree area and be appended to it. It's already shown up here in this process flow or program flow window, and notice it's divided into some branches very nicely. If we went down here into the project tree, that process flow is there by name, and here's all the components of it: proc print, data step, etc. This hasn't been run yet. Let's go ahead and run it. We will run simple demo process flow. A log was generated, some results in SAS report form, and some results in listing form. Let's double click on this one. Pull over here a little bit so we can see it. There it is. So then we would go into the reporting to consolidate it, etc. And we'll show that a little bit later in the program. The next subject area I'll address is controlling output via setting some options in SAS Enterprise Guide. These are the only options I usually land up using, despite the hundreds of different things that are out there. I find these more critical. To get to that and control output, tools in the menu bar, options. Let's look at the results, and you can check off how many of the things you want to store it as. You can do all of them, one of them, whatever. Possibly none. I don't think that makes sense. SAS report is kind of a new flavored output: HTML, PDF, RTF, and text output. By default here, I'm just going to put it out to SAS report and text output as I'm running this. All the rest of this, go through it someday. Don't do it right away. Now I'm going to start a discussion on editor options. There are several of these that I feel are very critical to making you feel at home if you've used any good editor. To get to these, we are going to go to Program, Editor Options. You'll notice there's also some editor macros and things that we're not covering here. But Editor Options, the first one that I always have checked is Show the Line Numbers. I can't operate any kind of an editing system that's got files of any size at all without having line numbers. I do have drag and drop text editing checked. It is checked by default. And then down here, this collapsible code sections is so important to allowing you to look through the code to kind of sort the forest from the trees by expanding and collapsing. So do turn all of that on. Those are the only key ones that I'm really into here. Let's look at something that's not an editor option, but it's a way of using the editor, and that is when we have a file. Now I've got a very simple file here. Let's right mouse out in the white screen area and let's choose to split this work area. We could actually go into a 2x2 split where it is both stacked and side by side. And if you have a large dual screen monitor system, that's a nice way to work. For right now, we're just going to go with stacked. And now what we have are two views of the same file. It is the same file, unfortunately. You can't open one file that you're working on and then look at another for reference. Okay, as we scroll up and down in one window, notice that the other remains static. So it's a great way to kind of search through and look for some code. And also you'll notice that the file collapsing and expanding structure is present in both windows. The last major item for discussion here is how to consolidate output. In your traditional SAS program, usually as you've run multiple procs, etc., you get one big accumulated output. Granted, there are ways to divert it to different output files. How do you do that in Enterprise Guide? Because as you look at Enterprise Guide, you'll notice off from each proc print came a listing file, a SAS report file. Notice that on both of them. What I want to do is combine this one and this one into a report. Now let's say maybe I generated 10 of these things and I only wanted 3. That's the beauty of this. You can programmatically put the thing together so it'll only pick those 3 out, and meantime you've got all the rest of them to look at while you're online. If you had HTML, you also could pick out and choose the HTML files to put together. I'm going to show you where the HTML file consolidator, if you will, is located, but we're not going to do it here because we didn't generate HTML. We would go to Tools, Create an HTML document. I'm not going to go any farther here, but rather I'm going to show you how I would do it for these listing files. I would go over to File, New, Report. And up would come the current things I have available to pick from. I can drag and drop these over into a report layout. I'm not going to go through that at this time because you'll have to play with it to get comfortable. It's a little bit different way of working. At the end of the day, that effort is going to do this consolidated report. And if you double click on it, there's the things that are showing up as I last configured it and ran it. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can modify the appearance of this report. And if you don't like this particular one, this was a journalistic one or something like that, there must be 20 or 30 different things that control formatting, appearance, colors, and whatnot. This completes this presentation. My name is Roger Muller. I hope you've gained a lot in some hints and techniques for an experienced file-based programmer to take off and really start enjoying SAS Enterprise Guide. Don't hesitate to look at some of the other references I have in the paper, and do continue to monitor my YouTube website for additional programs. Thank you.